This conference will now be recorded.
Um, Probably the same way that everybody else has. Like if going attending different events that maybe ASID is putting on, or any other organizations that may be putting on, and getting yourself out there, talking, not being afraid to talk, and kind of getting your face and your name visual, I guess, getting out there.
Yes, Veronica.
Well, I would definitely say that since everything is going virtual, that you should just meet them online. So wherever you think any designers are, like from firms that you're looking at that you would like to work at, find them on LinkedIn. Connect with them on LinkedIn. If there's an email on their website, shoot them an email and just let them know, like, you've been checking out their firm and you're interested. And one thing that I did, and this was before COVID, but I think it would probably help now, was for a designer that I worked for in New York. I found him on Facebook. I actually messaged him on Facebook, and I was just like, I would love to pick your brain. I love your design work. Is there a way that we could get together to connect? And he shot me an email after he asked for my email address. And it was history after that. I started working for him virtually, actually, as a virtual design assistant for quite a while, and had an opportunity to fly in for a lot of projects. So definitely meet them online. So find them on Facebook and LinkedIn, or wherever you think they may be open and available to connect.
I know for my firm and for people that I've been looking to hire in the last probably 4 to 6 months, I mean, that's been huge for me, has been to utilize those email connections or the LinkedIn connections more so than I maybe did a year ago. I think that's kind of been a really good outlet. Amanda, Linsey, do you guys agree with that, kind of on that whole, connecting via social media or LinkedIn, sending emails and kind of being persistent?
Yeah, I did both. So I'm just about 2 years, not quite, out of school, so it's still pretty fresh for me. But I definitely sent emails. But I know one thing was that these firms are so busy that it's not that you're not standing out, it's that they're so busy they're not looking at an intern email coming through. So if you're persistent and they see your name a couple times, that's really what's going to stick. And then yeah, I also reached out on Facebook and said, hey, I shot you an email, I'll take a look. One actually tool that I use that stood out was Issuu. It's ISSUU, and you can upload a virtual PDF of your portfolio. And that was before COVID, but now that I think that's more helpful now than ever. So
now, for those of us that have never used Issuu before, is that something that as an employer that gets automatically connected to you via email, and that just kind of helps to formulate kind of a communication process? How does that program work?
Yeah. So you can use a free version. I think there's one you can pay for, but the free version worked fine for me. I basically saved it as a PDF and uploaded it that way, and then shared the link. And it's basically the Issuu link with your first and last name or whatever you identify as. So it's really easy to share. You can send in an email, send it in a Facebook message, and say, take a look. And they have a few minutes to flip through, then that's really how it's a good tool to stand out. So.
And are you seeing more portfolios created digitally? That's kind of been the common trend more in the last couple of years, but are you seeing that as being much more common, whether it's a virtual website or a digital PDF of the portfolio?
Yeah.
Kind of nodding.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, some of my classmates and even myself, we created a free website portfolio. So I know Veronica Sandoval is someone in the industry who I saw at first that I'm sure somebody else had already done it, but I saw hers and I was like, oh, that's a great idea. I can do like a website, and if it's free with like Wix or Weebly, and you can just create like an online portfolio. And on the resume, I just sent them the link to my website. That way they could go and look on there. So it was a really quick and easy tool to kind of see all of your design work in one spot.
Very cool. Veronica, you mentioned a little bit about virtual design. Are you seeing a lot more of the trend going kind of with COVID towards that virtual design, and what does that look like?
Oh, it's definitely going more towards virtual design right now, especially because of COVID, mainly because people are still very cautious about having, visitors in their home, which I understand. And so, we're being a lot more safe. And so clients are more inclined to kind of lean a little bit more towards virtual design. And then, of course, with there being, changes in income, virtual design is, oftentimes a little bit more cost effective. And so they're, kind of transitioning to that as well. But then you still have your traditional in-home designers who, still love that person-to-person interaction.
Agreed. Now, I want to touch base on all four of your, first jobs, and then maybe kind of going into where you are currently, to maybe give a little bit of history of, where you started and where you are now, and maybe some interesting tips along the way. Tori, can you give us a little background, maybe of, where what your first job was, and maybe what you're doing now?
You mean like after graduation?
After graduation, yes.
Oh, well, I actually started at Frost Interiors after graduation. I'm still here. So I got it maybe the month after a month after graduation. And it's a small firm, it's just me and the owner. So I actually got involved a lot more heavier than you probably would have in a bigger firm. So I've gotten to work with clients directly, contractors directly. And I mean, it's been pretty good. You learn a lot really quickly when it's just two of us. So it's of course, a lot of mistakes do happen. I have made quite a few, but I'm still learning. I've been here for 3.5 years almost, so it's still a learning experience for me, even being here for this long. But I'm a fairly quickly learner, so I like that it's kind of fast paced. But it can be stressful sometimes. Yeah, I would agree.
Now, you said you maybe made some mistakes or things that you've learned. Is there anything that has helped to kind of create or mold you into the designer that you are today? I mean, over the last 3.5 years, I mean, are there some things that have to, a story or anything specific that you can remember that has helped you develop your current design roles, I guess?
Yeah, really just trying to think the whole job out as much as you possibly can to answer any questions before you start, because once you start, it's kind of hard to rectify things sometimes because clients don't necessarily understand the struggles of construction. So like when when the time schedule doesn't go the way it's planned, or when a contractor doesn't show up, or when items don't show up, they don't really understand what could cause that. So they'll get angrier faster than what maybe you would. So you have to try your best to kind of think 3 steps ahead before things start, so that you can kind of rectify issues before it happens, so that the client has less stress on their side, because you're basically taking all of that on. So the client themselves think everything is going smooth, and then there's no issues unless we have
so
to.
kind of being proactive, I guess, instead of reactive.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, a lot of things I learned is trying to have my plan set out as best as I can, because there's always going to be something that's going to happen that you didn't foresee beforehand. But I try to think as much as I possibly can out, and then have a schedule set out as best as I can, and then just hope it's gonna go for it.
That's a good plan. Amanda, Linsey, can one of you guys lead and then the other follow in your first job out of school, and kind of where you are now, and again, how, maybe some lessons you've learned along the way, or a story that has kind of helped to shape, your current career?
So my first job after graduation
was not the dream job whatsoever. I didn't do a lot of research into the company, and so I ended up just taking the first job that I applied for, and it was mostly just ordering flooring material and appliances for a builder. So it wasn't, I mean, I guess there were some interior design aspects of it, but not as much as I would have liked or that I was hoping for. But I did learn that I definitely needed to work with a team, or like have a team to kind of feed off of, or like play off of. And so that helped me kind of figure out my next steps as to like who I wanted to work for next. And I kind of sought out, because I really like the construction part of design. And I guess my next job was working for Magnolia in Waco. And so that was really, really fun.
That's very cool.
Yeah, I got a lot of hands-on experience working there. And it was season 5. So after season 5, or after the show ended, I knew that I still wanted to do construction, and but also more of the furnishing side of design, and Baker Design Group was the perfect place.
And we're assuming you're talking residential.
Residential, yes. I never really wanted to do commercial, unfortunately. I've just heard that the projects are really, really long, or they take forever. So the turnover, yeah. So
and boring.
So yeah, I ended up just being here at Baker Design Group and absolutely love it. We get a lot of experience here with different things. So it's been great.
So from ordering appliances and doing that with a builder, how has that helped you at Baker? Are there some things that you have learned from that first experience that kind of helps to transition to your current roles?
Yeah, I think well, as far as just like ordering material, just making sure, following up on the orders for sure is something that
don't expect your rep to stay on top of things. Like you have to stay on top of your rep, because delays happen, especially with COVID. So.
Yes, there have been so many delays with this. So. Yeah. And having just like other options if things don't pan out the way that they need to. Yeah.
My story's a little different. I did my internship with Baker Design Group 2 summers ago. So that's how I kind of came across them. I'm from Iowa. I grew up there, went to school at Iowa State. So big move to Texas was 11-hour drive. And I did it within a week of graduating. So yeah, I reached out, and they had an opening. So I took the position as an intern, and I loved it. So I knew I wanted to come back. And honestly, I don't think I would have if I didn't get to know a company the way I did. So that helped a lot. I guess kind of like you, I did research them, and I did talk with them and stay in contact the last year of school, and they still had another position open. So I got to, it really just helped me find my first job that I fit into really well. I didn't have the horror stories that some people do. So it worked out.
Now, when it comes to, the residential world that you guys are both in, I know sometimes, some firms are smaller, some firms are larger. Is there a transition from, entry-level designer to junior-level designer, and how do is that kind of a smooth transition? It sounds like, if you've been there for 2 years, is that something that you easily work up to, or is that something that, is kind of a prove yourself as you go type of transition, or you kind of have to apply for that next level? What have your guys' experience been in that?
So my current title is junior designer. Yours?
And I'm just an interior designer.
And then we have our lead designer and senior designer. So here it's kind of based on experience and really what you're prepared for. Sometimes it just takes time to learn what you need to know before you can become a lead or senior designer. So that's kind of how it operates here. And also just how busy we are, which has been insane lately. Good problem, but I mean, it's kind of been more hands-on for me, a little bit quicker than I kind of anticipated, which I'm all for, but they had to delegate the work a little bit. So that's kind of helped me grow as a designer pretty quickly.
That's great. Very cool. Veronica, what about you?
Yes, I started out as an intern with Mikkel Welch. So he is the designer that's in New York. And again, like I met him on Facebook, and I started working as an intern with him after that Facebook contact. And from there, he was still like my first job directly out of college. But then, of course, I'd also, had been applying to other firms, while I was in school because I wanted to test the different types of design, which is why I went into commercial. So I worked at a firm in commercial design, which is why I was saying to Amanda, like, it was so boring. Which is why it was not my dream job, because it was very boring. And the reason why I say it was boring for me is because I didn't feel like it was like enough, creativity when it came to like the design aspect. Because typically when you're working in commercial, you're working for like big brands who already have like a color story and a marketing, way that they're sticking to. And so there's not a lot of creative freedom. And so, there's some challenges, of course, with designing a new space with their palette. However, other than that, that's really all your, as far as creativity goes. And so that's why although I love the firm, the company was RS&H. I actually, really love the company itself. The workplace morale there was just amazing, and so was just all the people there. So I really loved it there. I just didn't like the work, and so from there I transitioned from there to another luxury residential design firm, which is a whole different ball game, switching from commercial to residential, because you're learning different types of things, whereas commercial is more ADA sustainability based and residential is not. And so but it's more creativity in residential. And so that's what I did after that. And now I start my own company this year, and doing residential, and hopefully get more of those going as the COVID slows down and the year progresses.
And do you think all your past experiences have helped you begin your own company? I mean, with being in the commercial world and the residential world and having some of those past experiences, is there any aha moments that you experienced along the way that maybe helped you to begin your own design company?
Yes. First off is I just realized that I wasn't the employee type. Not saying that employees are, bad thing, right? But it's just, I just felt like I was like, a business owner type of person, and I just really wanted to start my own thing. And so I just took everything that I learned from both of, the different types of companies. So I actually wouldn't mind doing both residential and commercial, but I think I would like to do maybe more bespoke hotels type of commercial or hospitality, and a little bit of restaurant, which I did with Mikkel Welch. So, I've been able to kind of dabble in all aspects. I've did healthcare, I've done, office spaces, and all of that. And being able to kind of touch base in these companies with the different types of products, or services, I've been able to narrow my niche, or the thing that, fills me up, which is residential, and I would like to say maybe hospitality. And so having an opportunity to kind of do a little bit of both would be my ideal. And definitely think that what I've learned from these companies and the firms have pushed me to be where I am, to be able to start my own company, for sure.
Very cool. I know in my world, I started off after school as an intern. I graduated in 2009, and it was really, really hard to get a job. So the only thing that I was able to do was to get an internship, just to get my foot in the door. And so I acted as an intern / receptionist / whatever else they wanted me to do. And then I just worked my way up the firm. And I think that's the cool thing about the interior design world is it's as much as you get, as you put into it. I mean, you you have to challenge yourself. You have to push yourself. You have to, no one's telling you have to be a senior designer or a lead designer. If you want to be on a design team, there's no problem with that. And if you want to own your own company, there's no problem with that either. And like Tori, it's she and the owner of her company. I think, there's so many different avenues that you can take this, whole world of, interior design. It's as personalized as you want to make it. So I think that that's kind of a neat thing about the industry that we've chosen. Tori, are there any things that you wish you learned in interior design school that would have maybe helped to prepare you a little bit more for your first job? Or is there anything that you wish they had taught you curriculum-wise in school to prepare you for the design world, the real design world?
Really how to deal with those setbacks that I mentioned earlier. When it comes to construction and like learning how to talk and connect with your clients, I think is a big thing too. Especially when I feel like you are in a smaller firm and see you so much. So being able to really connect and relate to them will also, I think, will also help any kind of setbacks as far as the remodels may concern, help calm them down because they understand that you got it, that you will take care of them, that yeah, this happened, but you have everything under control. So if you're, I think those types of things, and of course, like a little bit of the business side of interior design too, would have been great as far as schooling is concerned, because they kind of taught you about the design aspects of things, but not really the business side of interior design. And there's a lot of business when it comes to the interior design world. And it would be great to be able to have at least just the top layer of that to kind of know how we should work when it comes to that.
Sure. Amanda, Linsey, do you guys have some thoughts on what you wish you would have learned in interior design school, or maybe that they would focus on a little bit more?
We kind of talked about it earlier. One big thing was budget, and it's difficult because not every firm carries the same lines at the same price point, or your client might be high end or not. So it's hard to teach, but I don't know if there's some kind of.
I think so in school we never really had like a budget to work with, so we would just go nuts, right? Like we'd be like, yes, we're gonna use like this super expensive product, or we'd get wild with it. And now that we're in the real world, we're like, oh, maybe we can't get too crazy. Maybe we need to think about.
You can't have a $500 lamp. Something like that. So that was a big thing for me, is just being budget conscious. I mean, you adapt to what your firm and client needs are, but being aware of that. And I guess what else?
Veronica, what about you?
I would say two things. So first is like the real business of design. I think that is very lacking in our education, where we're not actually talking about like the business side of design, where we're discussing like the real day-to-day inner workings of what happens when you're working at a design firm or even running a design firm. Some of that is what I had to learn either by working at a firm to like understand about like hourly billing versus flat rate versus like basically like all those things that really make a design firm work. I think as a student, because when you don't really understand what makes a design firm run the way that it does, you kind of just get lost in everything. But I think like if we come into it understanding what's behind the scenes, then I think as interns or incoming students or outgoing students or whatever, we would understand. I think we would have a little bit of a different mindset coming into the workplace, having a little bit more business savvy when we're going to work, when we understand all of the inner workings. And then the second thing would be, I wish that we would have learned NCIDQ based curriculum while we were in school. Mainly reason because it's like such a huge exam that we're all wanting or possibly wanting to take as a profession. And so I wish that the curriculum that we had circulated or was kind of like based off of this exam, because it's so important to our profession that I think that all of the schools should really be teaching from that aspect as opposed to a generalized, dream aspect. So I wish that would have been what we learned in school that I'm having to learn now outside of school.
And I know every curriculum's a little bit different, at different schools, they have different focuses. I think one thing that I'm noticing with new employees or people that I'm interviewing is the lack of knowledge maybe in the residential world. I think there's a lot of knowledge of the commercial-based, interior design, and I know that can kind of streamline into residential, but I think that that's been something that's, that you don't see as often is, what is the residential world looking for, or how do you put together, a fabric scheme, or how do you put together, furnishings that work well, or, in the residential world, it's not all about furniture and fabrics. There is that construction base that Tori was talking about, and budgets and timelines and all those types of things as well. So it's kind of a full encompassing, aspect into both environments. So I think that that's, very important. Is there anything that you would suggest to students that are coming out of school that, if they didn't learn some of these things that, such as budgets or such as, timelines and communication, are there things that proactivity, are there things that you would recommend that they do beforehand or to learn before they go on their first interview? Or is there any advice on some things that they could, maybe brush up on or learn? Or is there any tidbits that you can give?
Yeah, there's definitely a book that I received when I was in school that I didn't read, that I'm reading now, and I wish I would have read it while I was a student. And it is The Professional Practice of Interior Designers. That book has so much valuable information, like, not to say screw NCIDQ, but what I'm saying is like that book has like all of everything that you want to know about what you do as a professional in interior design. It has everything in that book. It talks about fees, it talks about contracts, it talks about how to interview, it talks about resumes, it talks about all of that good stuff. So definitely would suggest, I know students are probably boggled down with work because I remember what that was like, especially finals week. It's hard, but I would definitely suggest reading that book and also the NCIDQ books, because you are able to test for that exam your senior year. So, while it's fresh in your mind, I would, start maybe reviewing those two books, the NCIDQ book, which is the Interior Design Reference Manual, I believe. So if you, brush up on that book and ask your teachers, like, they can really give you, some assistance with, what you need to learn. So that way, once you're starting to look for those jobs and you're going in for those interviews, you're well prepared because you know what to expect.
Tori, do you have any little tidbits of advice for students coming out of school as to, oh, well, we didn't learn some of that stuff. Now what do I do? Any books or references? Or I know that there's some great even Instagram accounts that you can follow that kind of are the real world questions and answers of interior design. Do you have anything that you would recommend?
Well, I don't know, cause I know what helps me a lot with the whole with what you said as far as people not knowing much about residential design in school, because our interior design classes are more based on commercial jobs. I actually minored in home furnishing merchandising, so that honestly helped a lot with the residential side because it was more based on those things. So I had textiles, and I took a kitchen bath planning class. So that actually kind of helped me know a lot more about residential design and remodeling than the interior design classes themselves because they're more commercial based. But as far as like now, Veronica kind of said a lot of the things that you probably should do while you're in school to do that. And then plus just being part of ASID as a student was very helpful too. And like you said, asking your teachers, I asked my teachers a lot of questions. And honestly, before I was a senior, I utilized the seniors, before me, asking them a lot of questions as far as what they were going through and what they were doing. But yeah, but a lot of reading, of course, asking questions.
Yep,
I do.
that's right.
I don't know if I have it. Oh, I do. Hold on. I also did get this little book, which was very helpful if you're going to go into residential, because it's like a little. We had a bigger textbook of it, but I actually found like a shortcut version of it, and it has like all the codes and measurements you're supposed to have as far as kitchen and bathrooms, as where things are supposed to be and how far apart they are supposed to be from the door or toilet or whatever the case may be. This has been very helpful. Even today, as I'm working in kitchen and bathroom stuff, I always keep this with me so I can be like, oh, okay, this needs to be this far apart. And it's just so finding stuff like that and anything else is very helpful to always keep with you.
Agreed. Now, if you guys, and I see some people are starting to put these books on the chat, but if you guys want to maybe put those on here if they're not there listed already, so anybody who wants to find them later, I think those books are really valuable. I know that there's some great podcasts. I know that there's some great Instagram, like I said, things that you can follow that really help to learn what this real world is. The school's only 4 years, and you can only learn so much. So, here we are, graduating and need to, kind of maybe catch up or learn some additional things on our own. That kind of leads me into the interview world. We've graduated or still in school, maybe some of us, and now it's interview time. I know for me, I enjoyed interviews because I could make a face-to-face connection. I could read body language. I could, really try to form, a relationship with this person that I'm interviewing with. So I enjoyed that process. Now we're interviewing via Zoom, or we're interviewing with masks on, or we're interviewing, it's a whole different world. Do you guys have any tips on interviews in the current day world that we're in, and maybe how to, create those connections, and maybe any tips from your own interviews, maybe some failures or successes that you guys remember when you guys were interviewing for your current jobs, that you could share with everybody. Veronica, you're nodding your head.
Yes. So I think maybe I was trying to get a job at an aerospace company. So they did interiors for private jets and airplanes. And I think the interview was going really, really well until they asked me one question. They asked me, where do I see myself in the next 5 to 10 years? And my response was, I see myself as being a business owner and owning my own firm. And I think when I said that, that immediately ended the interview. And I think the reason is because he had already previously mentioned that. So it's like you have to listen, when you're doing the interviews. So he had previously mentioned that they don't hire frequently because the people that work for their firm stay there a really long time. And so I think what he was looking for was longevity in, anybody that would come onto the firm. And so when I said 5 to 10 years, I see myself like doing my own thing. I think that's
you
like
scared him.
I think it was a huge interview fail because for them, it was like, oh, she's going to be gone. Like, no, we can't, bring her in because, the next, what happens in 2 years if she figures it out and she's like, okay, this works better, then she's out of here. So that is like probably like my big interview fail. But an interview success that I had was at the residential firm that I had applied for, she wanted me to draw an AutoCAD floor plan on the spot. So she had her AutoCAD open and she wanted me to draw a kitchen floor plan. She basically was like, it's going to be XYZ square feet. You figure out the design. And I had to do this in the interview on the spot. And so I was able to,
Wow.
of course, get that drawn in. And of course, I, got the job. So, right, no pressure, Catherine, right? So of course that was, really like, off-putting for one. It's like really like on the spot, but at the same time, I was confident in my skills because that's what I put on my resume, that I'm really good at AutoCAD. So saying that to say, don't lie when you're going into these interviews, telling them that you can do more than what you probably actually can do, because you never know what they're going to have you do at the interview, because I had no idea she was going to ask me at that moment to draw in AutoCAD on the spot to create a whole kitchen design. So just saying.
Well, and I think to your point about don't lie, I mean, these interviews, these are people that you're going to work with for several years. I mean, a lot of times in the interior design world, I find that, when you join a firm, you're not there for a year. I mean, you're there for 2 years plus. So I think, being yourself, showing your true colors, showing what you enjoy or don't enjoy, or explaining those, your positives and negatives, or that they may ask you. I think those are all very important. And I think explaining that you would in 5 years want to be a business owner and they didn't want you, I think that's to your benefit. You don't want to be there either, maybe. You want to be somewhere where you can grow and flourish your personal talent. So I think that that's a great lesson, is to truly be yourself in that aspect.
Mm-hmm.
Tori, what about you and your interviews?
As well, I did an interview with my intern when I had to intern in college, and then an intern with this one. I mean, interview with the company I'm with now. And I would say they were fairly easy. I'm not gonna I'm not gonna lie. I brought my portfolio in. Of course, you come dressed nicely and try to put your best foot forward as far as your first impression. And I've taken different etiquette classes and things, so I kind of already knew what I'm supposed to dress like, what you can't wear, what you can wear, and this and the other. But my interview processes were fairly easy. With my intern, she looked at my portfolio, she liked everything. She asked me if I wanted to ride with her that day, and I did, not necessarily knowing that meant, hey, she liked me, that I had the job technically. But yeah, we rode around, we talked, and we kind of clicked. And then she was like, okay, so I'll see you tomorrow. And I was like, oh, okay.
Well, that was easy.
So, and then even here, same concept, we talked, and I showed her my portfolio. She liked my resume. So I didn't necessarily have anything to where I guess I did anything that you shouldn't do as far as intern or interviewing for the 2 interior design jobs I've had. So yeah.
Okay. Amanda and Linsey, what about you guys? The interview world, how was that for you guys?
So this was a little mistake that I made. I went in for a second interview, and I forgot to get the main supervisor's business card. So I walk out of the interview, completely forget his name, just because I was so nervous and just really excited about the opportunity, and ended up emailing like saying thank you, blah blah blah. Asked for his information, but used the completely wrong name. So that was super, super embarrassing. Thank goodness it didn't bite me in the butt, because I ended up getting the job, but I was just super, super
They must
embarrassed.
have really liked you.
Yes, that was a lesson learned to just always remember who you're speaking with, and just all of those details.
For me, I think I was underprepared for my first interview. I kind of recommend doing one you're not super interested in to get the jitters out, just to see how it goes, see how you act, and that way you can be a little conscious of how quickly you're speaking or eye contact, that kind of thing. My second one, which was for Baker Design Group, I was so overprepared, I didn't even use it. It was a FaceTime interview at the time because I was in Iowa and they're in Texas, obviously. So I had like a sheet of paper for every question I thought they were going to throw at me, and didn't end up using it hardly at all because they were more interested in the person I was and who they could connect with that way, and on top of my skills. But so that was kind of a tip for me.
Yeah, interviewing with BDG was more of a conversation, and it was they made you feel very, very comfortable, and like, I don't know, it was just like it was an instant connection, I think, for both parties. I know that happened with me.
And we're also different here. It works in a weird way. But I would say, like, these girls have been here close to 10 years now, so that's a lot of pressure because I feel like for me being new, I need to step it up. But that's not the case because you can learn from them and grow that way. But also just being confident in your own skills. Like, they don't do 3D at all because it wasn't really around 10 years ago in school. So being confident in your own skills and what you can bring to the team will really set you apart.
Now, one thing that I have noticed, and I don't know if this is just in my own experience, and this is not very common, but one thing that I've noticed has been something that is not as common anymore, but if people don't do it, I automatically cross them off the list, is after an interview, what do you guys, my thought is, and how I was taught, was that you send a follow-up email thanking them, or a thank you note in the mail, that you've handwritten. I find that as the kind of that final follow-up, they've, done A, B, and C, and then, they've finalized it with that final stamp of, thank you. That just proves to me that, their follow through. What do you guys think on thank you notes?
Definitely. I think it really does send a really good message that at the very least, like, you want to kind of at least put yourself on their mind again by, like, hey, I really enjoyed the interview. I would love for you to call me back, or I don't know, like, whatever, like, basically just let them know, like, I want to work there. Okay, call me. So, writing it out on a letter and sending it to them, I think really does set the tone for them to let them know, I really am interested in this position and I really do want
Absolutely. Even if you're not interested in the position, I think it just leaves a much better taste in the employer's mouth. And, I think it's just kind of a common courtesy. As Catherine's saying now, it's a dying art. It truly is. And I usually give people up to a week. And if they don't send a thank you note, I don't give them the job. And I know that sounds harsh, but you have to figure out a way that when you do connect with people and you do have a relationship with this person, you might be interviewing 3 or 4 people who are all very great and who are all, have really good talents. And what is that one thing that's going to separate, Tori from Veronica? You have to kind of figure out what that is. And sometimes that final thank you note is that last key.
And I will say too, like, once, when you, if you're looking at it from a business perspective, like, these people are taking a lot of time out of their day to do the interview. Like, they could be missing a client meeting, they could be missing money, they could be missing whatever for your interview. So billable hours, it can be kind of rude to not send that, a thank you note, because it's like, letting them know, like, I know you took time out to do this, so thank you for allowing me, to take up that space.
Absolutely. Now, kind of to what did you guys say?
I said, and get the name right.
And get the name right. Yes. To your point. Yes, absolutely. Now, kind of I know we don't have a whole lot of time left, but I wanted to touch base on, networking. Networking is huge, whether you're in school, about to be out of school, or, actually out of school now. Even now that I'm in my current career, in my everyday world, I mean, I find that networking is huge. That's how I get clients. That's how I get referrals. That's how I meet vendors. How do you recommend people network now that, we are social distancing, or there's, not as many events and everything's on Zoom or on, social media or emails or whatever it may be? What do you guys recommend for this networking process? Veronica?
So yes, so there is well, I guess if I was going to say, the one thing you should probably do is join Facebook groups. And the reason why I say this is because there are tons of groups on Facebook that are, that have like, hundreds of interior designers, who are looking for help. And a lot of them are like, they're posting now saying, I'm swamped with work. I know I need to bring on help, but where do I find these people to help me? So definitely Facebook groups. So I would join a Facebook group and make a post in there and let them know, hey, I'm a student or a recent grad and I'm looking for interior design work. Please email me or contact me, inbox me, whatever. If you are looking for design assistance, or sometimes they post and they're saying like, where can I find help? And then you comment on there, I'm available. Like, let them know I'm a student. I have XYZ skills and you can bring me on to your team. That is a great way currently to really get access. And I think one great group, and I'll post it in here, is What They Don't Teach You in Design School. This group is run by Veronica Solomon, who is also an ASID member, and she has students in this group. Although the students aren't very active, but I would say get active so that way these designers can find you. So that would be my number one tip.
Awesome. Tori, do you have any recommendations on how to network, whether it's with other designers or current, design firms, new graduates?
I would say like this group in particular, emerging professionals, was very helpful for me as far as networking is concerned. I got into it late because I didn't know about it, but the year that I guess this would have been the second year if we didn't have COVID, but the year that I did get involved in it, it was honestly very helpful because a lot of the events that we had. Got me introduced to a lot more things without me feeling intimidated or a lot of pressure from it, as far as going to, I guess, a bigger ASID event, because there'll be a lot more people. So with emerging professionals, the smaller groups, so you kind of get more hands-on, which is better for me anyway. I work better that way. So having like more like that, it's not one-on-one, but you know what I mean, like smaller groups, so it's kind of feels like a one-on-one type thing, and just the types of events that we got to be a part of were very good experiences. So I would say getting involved in things like that is very helpful.
Amanda and Linsey?
One thing my university does, they're really big on alumni. So our professors still to this day will reach out to me, or graduates that are a couple of years older than me, and just straight up ask their firms if they're hiring. That's been a big connection for a lot of the people I graduated with, and staying in contact with their professors because they're tied to all these years ahead of you and below you. So that's a big, big network there.
Definitely.
So our boss is really, really big into, she really encourages us to be a part of these design organizations, especially ASID and IDS. Mm-hmm. And although we're not looking for other opportunities, it's still, it helps us just connect with other designers and see what kind of things they're up to, and if we have like any questions or concerns, and how we're doing, or like new processes that we want to implement. Like we can always just like feed off of other people at these organizations, or from these organizations.
And we run into our vendors a lot too, so putting a face with a name behind an email, developing that relationship is nice too.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. I think that's it's a huge thing, and I think as things start to open up, where we can start to do events again, and in-person social events, I think that is huge for emerging professionals, new graduates, even people who are still in school. I think going to those things and showing up, I mean, it's the best when you start to recognize faces, and knowing that person continues to show up or continues to be interested, and I think that is a great way to make those connections, and to be a part of a bigger community, because at the end of the day, I mean, we're all in this together, and we all are sharing in very similar interests and aspects, and we're all here to help each other. So do the four of you have any other closing comments? I know we can open it up to a few questions here at the end if anybody has anything. But do you guys have any other maybe pieces of advice that you would like to give to people coming out of school, or the emerging professionals, if you will, on entering into this new world of interior design?
Wasn't sure if anybody. Oh, go ahead.
Mine's just super quick. I would just don't be afraid to ask for help, even if it's just from your peers. Like, ask for help. I think it's really important to get feedback from whoever you can. But
Veronica?
I think if you're active in ASID, and just like being able to put that on your resume, any volunteer experience, any things that you're doing in other organizations on school, any hands-on experience that you've gotten, like, volunteering with like Habitat for Humanity or Dwell with Dignity, or, just a bunch of different organizations like that. I think that was one of the pushing factors that helped me land my job like a month before college graduation, was being able to have those credentials on my resume, because designers are really looking for involvement in organizations and involvement in the community. So I think having that on your resume sends a big hello, like to design firms. So definitely get active and put that on your resume for sure.
Tori, do you have any closing tidbits of advice?
Kind of the same thing Amanda said. Don't be afraid to ask questions, because it's always better to ask them beforehand than having the problem after the fact. So yeah, always asking questions and not being afraid to put yourself out there as well. I mean, because I know it can be scary. I'm scared too sometimes, so I get it. But putting yourself out there, it's helpful. You get to meet a lot of cool people, and it does help when it comes to your career and how far you want to go in it. So.
Well, if we want to open up the floor, we've got just a few minutes left. I don't know if anybody has any questions or anything that they want to ask the group. If you do, we can look here on our chat, or if somebody wants to chime in real quick. Catherine, we have a few more minutes?
You're muted, Catherine.
You think I know that by now, but even us, we do these all the time with our clients. Yes, I would love to have anybody, feel free to pop your questions into the chat box for us, and we'll try to get to all of those in the order that they're received. Really quick, I want to turn it over to our really gracious and amazing host for organizing this event with GoToMeeting, Miss Donna Vining of TAID. So take it away, Donna.
Okay, thanks, Catherine. Well, it's exciting to listen to all of you, and I remember those days very fondly. And so many of you said so many things that are so right on the market. Veronica, I love when you were talking about taking the NCIDQ, and I always love to tell somebody my story because it is 100 years ago, but it's so just being in the right place at the right time. But when I graduated, there were no CETA approved schools. I'm hoping y'all went to CETA programs. But the Q was not there either. And then all of a sudden the Q came out, and it was, man, that's the mark of a professional. And that was, you had to take that in my day to be an ASID member, and you had to take it within 5 years or you were out. And so, you know, I thought, okay, I can do this. Well, I guarantee you it's a lot easier the minute you graduate from school, or like Veronica said, you can take a part of it while you're still in school. But my reason for telling you all of this is my first job, I guarantee you I was bought. I had a double major. My father insisted I do business. Well, it was the best thing that ever happened to me in my life. And so my first job offers were $275 and $325 a month. This is in the dark ages, or $625 a month. And it was to be a administrative assistant. And I was going to be able to help the architect with a new building. So I said yes and jumped on it, was thrilled. Great experience business-wise, great experience working with the architect. He was a one-man show. And so he loved the other. He didn't have to pay for me. So I learned a lot working with him and got my hours. But quickly got married, started having babies. It's a great job to do residential. And over the course of my career, I have been so blessed and so lucky. But it is being upfront, don't ever not be businesslike. And you know, it may sound sexist, but you know, I try to nail the man as fast as I can because they have no clue what this is going to cost. And, you know, and I talk to them strictly in a business manner. I have a 6-page letter of agreement that I go over in detail. And it's 6 pages because it's a larger font, so they don't have to whip out their reading glasses. But the point that I'm going to get in this whole thing is then the jobs really started coming. ASID had a contest years ago with Southern accents, and I won first place, and that was a terrific honor. But it was kind of a mixed sword. I had people that say, oh, I wish I could hire you, but you're too expensive. They've never even asked what I made. They assume because I won a contest, I was in a national magazine, that all of a sudden I was out of their reach. I never changed my price at that time. But the other thing that it led to is I got jobs in Las Vegas. I got jobs in Florida. Both of those states have a Practice Act for interior design. Now, I could have fudged and gotten away with it being residential, but having the Q, I just could get licensed in those states immediately. Years ago, when I presented at NeoCon, there was a young lady who had done the commercial route, and she told her story, and her story was that she had graduated and was at work at Perkins & Will in Chicago and got a job in New York with Gensler. Gensler got a job in Florida and came into the staff and said, who's passed the Q, because we got a job in Florida and you have to be registered. And she raised her hand and she became head of the interiors in Florida. So it's one of those things. I see you shaking your head, Veronica, and it's just, my advice is get it, tuck it away, and you'll have it. And so when the time comes, you've got it. I'm one of those people that do not like to be told I can't do something when I'm capable of doing it. And so when licensure came out in Texas, you know, and they were like, well, you know, if you're not licensed, you can't do this. And I'm like, what? You know, I have the education, I have everything. So I'm a strong believer in it. And for my path, I know Linda Baker very well, girls. She used to be in Houston. And yeah, I've been around the block a few. I know most everybody there is. But the other thing I was going to tell you is, you know, I volunteered for the Q, and the book that you love, Christine Piotrowski wrote. And Christine is amazing. She followed me as chair of the multiple choice. And it is really a great book, an excellent book for the real practice of interior design. The other things that y'all said that I agree so much is Christina on the thank you note. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. I'd want to hire somebody so bad. Until I got that thank you note, I would not offer him the job. And when I had at the biggest time, I had 13 people. And it was really funny because the younger one were like, wait a minute, Donna, let's check them out on Facebook before we hire them. If they've got a sexy tag or too many promiscuous, I went, like, are you kidding me? They're like, no, we don't want them to come. And there was only one girl, and they said, no, she's way too raunchy in her pictures. So I always tell when I'm talking to the students, be very careful or have another name, you know, 2 different names. The other thing, I'm just trying to hit real fast on what y'all said, but one of you mentioned about the school, and I think there's no doubt. I'm on the advisory board right now of Stephen F. Austin, and faculty can help you a lot. A person in Ashland's position, she knows designers, she knows firms. You won't get into the wrong place if you ask a few people. And as much as we don't want to go badmouth anybody, and Veronica, you're absolutely terrific. If you were in Houston, Veronica Solomon rocks. She is my star, my young lady that I have mentored a long time, and she is fabulous. And I've watched Veronica Solomon just soar, and she's very sharing. And I've said, you get what you reap, you know, so always help your fellow designer. Do y'all have peer groups in the Texas chapter? Do y'all know what I'm talking about, a peer group? Ashley's shaking her head, yes. Years and years ago, a lady that was the first president of the ASID chapter in Texas Gulf Coast started them, and it kind of went all around the United States. But it's where a group of you and your peers get together. Most of it's once a month, and it can be a little social, but it's really designed to build each other up, and especially if you're in sole practice. And, you know, people said, oh, no designer is ever going to tell another designer what they charge. And I said, why would I not tell anybody what I charge? If we all charged, you can't price fix, but if we all charged what we should charge, then they would only get that price offered to them. So it just builds up your profession and your professionalism if they interview. I always wanted to be interviewed I wanted the client to interview me as well as my peers, so that they were getting they weren't going to be shocked when they heard $175 an hour. You know, they weren't going to be shocked at a lot of fees that I was going to charge. So, and again, when they'd say, well, you know, we're going to interview Monica and I'd say, fantastic, all great designers. That's another thing. I've never, ever put down my competition. And I tell them it is so much a personal relationship when you're doing residential that we are going to be best friends. Julie Catlin is a former national president of ASID, and I love one of the things she has always said to me. She said, I always look at an employee and they bring the portfolio, and many of you have many beautiful portfolios. But she said, I sit across from them and I think, do I want to have lunch with her or him? And I've always thought, really? And then I got to thinking, yeah, we all want to work with somebody we like. And so I think that, and I can't remember which one of you, but I think it may have been you, Christina, that said, to me, so much, if you have a degree, I already believe you can do these things. So for me, it's all about your personality and and what's your work ethic? You know, do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? I'm all about working hard and playing hard. And so that was always my thing. When 4-day work weeks came, I went to my office and I said, y'all want to do that? Fine with me. 4 10-hour days or off on Friday, they were like nuts, you know, and I said, no problem. And I started giving people's birthdays off, just little things, but it's always come back to me 24/7. When you're good to your employees, they're good to you. And, you know, if we had a deadline, they worked. And if we didn't have a deadline and it came Friday afternoon, you know, this is when we did the Fridays, you know, I'm like, let's get out of here. Let's go. Let's go. Or Thursdays even sometimes, you know, if we're caught up, hey, I don't need you on a 40-hour basis. I just need you when I need you. So again, I think you'll reap what you sow, and network is unbelievable. When I did those jobs in Vegas and Florida, I just picked up I remember my presidents, and I called them and I said, hey, I need a workroom to do this. I need this. I need this in each state. And immediately, you know, the interior designers just started giving me names. Use this, do this for this guy, It was done. So, and then of course I dropped their names. So then the suppliers were like, oh yeah, great. You know, so I think you're absolutely right on networking and you know, live your best life. I love residential. I have commercial clients and they have been wonderful. And I still have commercial clients, but my love has always been residential. And, you know, I think if you do what you love what you do. That's about it,
Absolutely.
unless y'all have a question.
No, thank you, Donna. Really quick, I just wanted to make a couple of things and I'll get to some of our questions. Yes, Ashlyn.
Just real quick, kind of to Donna's point though, reach out to your reps for whatever you need. Let us be the experts that support your projects. Because sometimes, like literally in paint, there can be thousands of products. The color is just something that they're customized to. So just whether it's paint, tile, carpet, textiles, what have you, make sure you're reaching out to your reps and they can help guide you through those, especially those early days. But even once you're a seasoned professional, there's still questions that come up.
I literally emailed you last week, 2 weeks ago after your CEO. I go, I need some special notes for instructions for my knucklehead painters, or I'm going to have to find new, better painters. So what are some really good foolproof instructions to list in my specifications? And Ashlyn sent us a whole bunch of stuff and forwarded it to, Heather in my office and now Iwana, and we're writing them with a lot more notes on it. And I go, you can't say I didn't tell you so now. But really quick before we get to, I want to brag and congratulate on Christina for being on the cover of Dallas Market Center's mailer. So if nobody gets this, it's the little Dallas Market Center guy, which has our other wonderful sponsor, Fazy, on the back. How ironic. But you guys should pick it up. And when you've got some free time, make appointments wherever is necessary, but take some time. But congrats to you. That was just an amazing
Thank you.
feature for you, for 5 designers to watch in Dallas. So we love to
Thank
see that.
you.
Another quick thing, I think, coming out of design school, I personally was, and I don't know where it was maybe my insecurity because I hadn't worked yet and I wasn't super involved in board positions at ASID, but I had this mentality that if I didn't get the job that I failed and that other girl was better, and it was this big competition amongst the other people. And now we're so collaborative, it's not that way. It's not meant to be. Like everything happens for a reason. So, use this time and brush up on everything, business schools, business classes, take some classes online, network with people, and, it doesn't have to be hopeless. So first question is from Sumaya. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. I have a furniture business and a degree in another industry. Do you have any advice to those pursuing this from a non-conventional career path? So I'm assuming in design or moving towards certification, because I know through TAID we've got very multiple paths. So go back and scroll through the chat and save some of these links that we're sharing and jot down these things. We'll also have this recorded just so y'all know if you want to go back to find some points to touch back on and rewatch. We'll have those posted here in the next week or so. Anyone want to take an answer there?
I think it really depends on what you're really trying to get to. So I think there are people that hire people from, you may have skills that somebody else doesn't have. So I would, I don't know what your skills are. You're saying you're a student in interior design now. So it's hard, like you said, Catherine, it's real hard to answer that question. But there are a lot of people out there willing to help you. And again, when you come from a diverse background, you bring other expertise.
Well, I think it's following your passion too. Like I said earlier, it's your career is what you make of it. And I think that, if you don't necessarily have to have a construction background to be, great at construction, or whatever avenue you want to go down. If, you can learn those, you can learn that, you can, make the best of some of the resources that everybody's providing. But I think it's on you as to, what path you do take. I think it's, that challenging yourself and kind of figuring out where your end goal is and how you're going to get there.
Very good points. Next comes from Hannah. I have a quick student question. Due to COVID-19, our university winter breaks are much longer than normal. Do you have any suggestions on ways to be productive over the break? Which I would say, congrats, that's awesome. I felt like we never had enough downtime between our student projects, but I would start it off with just read, read voraciously, read blogs, read books. The more you see, the more you find stuff on Pinterest and Instagram, everywhere I find creativity. I'll screenshot and send it to Ioana and I'll say, look into this pottery company I just found at 2 in the morning when I woke up to make a glass of water. And, who knows what that connection could make you, but it's true,
Well, and taking extra time. I know Michael Bauer's on here. Hello, Michael. But going to the DMC and learning about product is invaluable. And, if you have the time, just like Ashlyn said, she knows more in her brain about paint than we ever think about. But you go talk to those manufacturers, they'll help you sell their products, and then you'll learn about it. So when you come in with the client, they know who you are. And so that's another one step ahead of how good you look. So that the sources that you've got at your disposal are fantastic.
Great point. Yes, thank you so much, Michael Bauer. He is our amazing Dallas Market Center, another sponsor, but just an amazing person I'm starting to get to know even better. But he's just the salt of the earth. So thank you for being here and for joining us. Another good point as to what Donna was saying is, even every once in a while, we don't have any slow times right now, which I say I can't complain that we have too much work to do, but whatever it does, like there's that lull in between projects, I love to just take the office and we go to all the design center and we just walk and we go through the wings of fabric. So we familiarize ourselves and we'll think, where was that place? I'm looking for something for so-and-so project. Oh, I saw that at Culp Associates. And if you've never been to some of these places, it's intimidating. I'll be very honest. I had to go pull samples when I was an intern at Looney, and I think I stepped in and I was like, pushed the door the wrong way. I thought I was going to knock something over and break it. But I'll be very honest, like it's true. And until you really get comfortable walking and like not knowing in the maze of the showroom where that one sample desk is that you're just trying to get to pick up your stuff to run to the next one before the end of the workday, it's true. It's how it kind of goes. So next question we have. Great point. Reach out to your reps whenever you have questions. We love supporting your products. Michael, and you said, oh, and always everybody, whenever you're posting on social, tag hashtag Dallas Market at Dallas Market and Dallas Market Design. And himself, you can follow Michael at mobdmc.com or at mobdmc. At MOBDMC, I can't speak. And then they'll reshare your posts, and that's also fun just to, be social media published. And Hannah, I've learned about vendors in the industry. Thank you, Bill. Thank you for hosting and attending. We love it. Sorry, guys, I'm trying to play catch up since we've been chatting. Michael says we always have copies of it in bins everywhere, and you can pick them up at various showrooms as well.
We were going to throw it out there. If you have a long winter break, get started on those portfolios because
yes,
we'll be pulling a lot of all-nighters towards the end.
Good point. I think another one, and I always tell students this, like even from a volunteer point, is remember when you graduate, your .edu email address is going to disappear. So if you're sending stuff from that now, and you're trying to hope that people will respond to you, if it just bounces back as a mailer daemon, we're not going to go and try to like look for that because unfortunately, set up something very professional coming right out of school. And we're going to go into that more in our real life HR on Thursday, but just, we've got funny stories of some of the addresses we've seen come through here. Oh my gosh. Well, I guess if nobody has anything else, thank you everyone for,
Catherine, there's one from Tammy. Yeah, she's an interior design student. She's getting her master's in architecture and then experience interacting with architects is her question.
Wonderful. Okay, so who wants to take it first?
I can, because when I was working at RSNH, it was an architecture and interior design firm. So It was also an engineering firm. So this particular firm had a department, and these were all on the same floor, where we had a section of mechanical engineers, there were aerospace engineers, then there were the architects and the interior designers, and we all worked together on the same floor. So it was a really fun dynamic, actually, working with the architects, although, I know in this profession, sometimes it, might not be in every case, but because of the company morale, everybody respected each other within this design firm. And so it was a very fun and engaging experience. And when I took the first part of the exam, which I failed by 8 points, but I digress. The architects did really help me with like some questions that, that I may not have understood on the exam, or like if there's like a lighting question, I could go over to the electrical engineers and I could ask them directly. And so it was a very collaborative environment. And you also get to learn the architecture side as it pertains to the interior. And so it was a really fun dynamic interacting with the architects. You learn a lot for sure.
Yeah, I think you're going to hear a lot more about that, Tammy, if you listen to our virtual office tours that we're having go live tomorrow at noon. So if you want to see, we've got great firms. We've got commercial, aviation, high-end residential, hospitality. So I think it's also good for you guys to hear from these people, like these different professionals, what all they do and how they work with architects. And we've got one where it's actually at Corgan, where it's the architect and vice president of Corgan. So I think also, just tune into the other event. We've also got our Birchin Hotel tour, which is going to go live on Friday. And that is done, by 2 collaboratives. So it's Joel Mazurski did the amazing interior design and furnishings. They had LMN Art and Design do all the art curation, and 5G Studio do the architecture. So all of these people had to work in tandem, so they could really make sure that everything communicates to one another. And it's really cool. I'm doing the final little editing, and it's like you see it from rendering to finished product today, and it's just unbelievable how on the nose they were from the beginning. And it's just an amazing place. If you haven't already visited, you really definitely should. So, but I think we've got a little bit where we kind of cover a lot of these things throughout the rest of our virtual event. So I don't want to dip too far into our time, but we've got the Vice President of Sales with Fazy Rugs in our virtual exhibit hall. So think of it like, a design booth that you walk by and you pop in and visit with them, and they're going to be joined with another technician from Fazy as well. So that's one of our amazing VIP sponsors. So thank you, everybody, for your time. Thank you so much to our amazing moderator, Christina, and then to all of our emerging professionals. This is so great to hear your stories, and I know we're going to see a lot of your faces on some of these future covers as well of DMC and everywhere else. So keep up the good work, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.